Hear me okay, Debbie? Everybody hear me okay? That's a good start. It's a good start. I've got charger on the phone and everything now, so it's all good. It's really strange because you can't really see yourself. You're very, very tiny in the phone screen. So I'm going to start with the kombucha demo. I'm going to tell you a little bit about why we ended up making our own kombucha, actually, and that is partly to do with costs. So I did a little cost analysis of making your own kombucha as opposed to going out and buying it. So the breakdown of the things you actually need to make kombucha is you need a SCOBY, which I'll be showing you in a moment. It's a little, looks like a little alien, and you'll see that soon. You need green tea and you need sugar and water, and that's all you need to make your own kombucha. So I worked out I can make 5 litres of kombucha and it cost me £1.91 per litre. And if you go and buy it, I just looked at the first one that came up on Amazon, it's £4.99 per litre. Now, the SCOBY, which is this little critter here, comes in a little bag from Amazon, and it does look like slime, guys. So this is the SCOBY. It's a little slimy creature. It's basically like a culture, like yeast, and in there's also a little bit of green tea liquid with it, which is really important. It has to go into your brew when you make it. So this little guy costs £8.99. So if you take that off the cost of your kombucha, because you're going to use this, you can use this guy over and over again, and they breed as well. So you end up with lots of little baby SCOBYs too. So you can actually use that time and time again. So the kombucha is actually loads cheaper than the amount I just told you, because you use this SCOBY over and over again, and I included the cost of SCOBY in the calculation. So we have quite a little brewery. I'm going to see if I can just wait to turn the camera around. But we've got several jars on the go at the moment. Oh, this one weighs a ton. So this is, I think we've got about 3 this size on the go in our kitchen at the moment. It's like a rotation that we have going. Because once you get a taste of this, you want to have a continual flow of it coming into your life, because it's amazing. So it's really good for you too. So making the actual tea brew, I've actually done it last night because it has to be cold before it goes anywhere near the SCOBY. The SCOBY is like yeast, or a probiotic. You'll kill it if you if you get it near anything hot or near anything metal. So the first thing we do is we make the tea, and the proportions stay the same. You just up it and down it depending on how much you want to make. So the jar I'm going to use today is a big just make up my birthday, that one. A big 5 litre jar. And the jars you can just get from Amazon or from any kind of household shop like that. So for every litre of tea, for every litre of water, you need 4 bags of 4 just standard green tea bags and 100 grams of sugar. So you can proportion that up or down depending on how much you actually want to make. So last night I made the tea and left it to cool overnight. So to start with, that's fine to do it in a big metal pan. So there's my big metal pan of tea. So while you're making the tea, and this is really important, obviously you're going to need it's about 3 kettles full for us to make that tea. So you put your 20 tea, for this one I've done 20 tea bags and 500 grams of sugar. That goes into the pan. And then once you've put the first kettle of water in, you put a 30-minute timer on. That's because you don't want the brew to get too strong, because again, the SCOBY is quite sensitive. You can easily kill it. So you don't want to have a really strong brew. So you put your 30-minute timer on, and then you just do your other 2 kettles. And after the 30 minutes are up, you fish the tea bags out, and there they are. They're the fished out tea bags from last night. And they just go in the bin, obviously, or compost. Although somebody did tell me that standard tea bags got plastic in them. You're not really supposed to compost them. But we're going to try and buy leaf tea from now on. So that'll be another calculation as to how much leaf tea we need to make the kombucha. So we just use at the moment just standard Asda green tea. Other supermarkets are available, of course, and just box standard normal sugar. Now, that may make it sound like it's going to be a very caffeinated, sweet drink, but in actual fact, it is like a bread making process, in that there's the culture, the SCOBY, the little yeast fella, he eats up all the sugar. So by the time it's created, it's very low in calories, and obviously the friendly bacteria are very good in it, and it's not got any caffeine in it either, because the SCOBY actually somehow metabolizes the caffeine too. So this is the fun bit, and this could be the messy bit. Before we start, I need to release the most recent brew. So I'm going to drain it in a minute, but we use these little tap jars from, I think we got them from the range or somewhere like that. And you don't keep it in the fridge. You keep it out of the fridge. I know when you go to the shops you can buy it in the fridge, but you're supposed to not keep it in the fridge. So the first job is, because what you do is you're recycling the brews all the time. So you're having to drain your previous brew in order to make the next one. So fingers crossed I managed to do this without drowning in kombucha. So there's just a little piece of muslin cloth over the top and a rubber band. That's the way you seal it, because it needs to get a bit of air in, but you don't obviously want anything falling in it. So this is the current one. It's like a weightlifting activity. It's so heavy. So you can perhaps see that there's a SCOBY formed on the top, and there's SCOBYs actually in the bottom as well, because they do reproduce and make more SCOBY going along. So at this point, because usually what we do is we reuse the SCOBYs, and we have to keep them away from metal. SCOBYs don't like metal. So once your tea's brewed, before you're going to transfer it into the glass before you put the SCOBY in, because you don't want the SCOBY to get near any metal. It doesn't, no probiotics like metal at all. So got a plastic sieve and a bowl to separate the SCOBY from the liquid. So watch this space that I don't drown myself. So this is the crappiest bit. So we just keep it in these jars with the whoops. Luckily the tap is closed, because I have done that with the tap open before, which really doesn't work. Hopefully you're going to see the big SCOBY that's at the bottom of the here it is. Now at this stage, it looks a bit grim. So this one started off like that little thing that I've just shown you, and this one hasn't so much reproduced as just grown bigger and bigger. But you reuse them over and over again. So as I say, once you've got that £8.99 SCOBY, some of these are a couple of years old, and they just keep reproducing and growing. So I'm just going to click that one in there. And just for this demo, I'm going to just leave this SCOBY sitting there, because you don't want them to ever get dry, because they don't like that. I'm just going to bear with me, talk amongst yourselves for a moment while I just rinse this jar.
Has anyone actually made anything like this before?
My son's girlfriend, who lived with us for a couple of years, she used to make it all the time. Lived on it.
I made it at the beginning in January, because there's a cookie dough recipe to follow, so it happens in all the machine, and then put it into then decant it afterwards. So it's got a fermentation program in it.
Oh, right. Cool. That's useful to know. Right. So give that a quick rinse out. There's only more kombucha going in it. So once you've got your jar, all you need to do is put the green tea in. Fingers crossed, everyone, that this actually makes it into the jar. So as you can see, I don't know if you can see, I'll hold it up in a minute. The tea at the start of the process So you want it to fill pretty much to the top. You want quite a small diameter of the top of the jar left on view. So you can see the tea is a proper, you know, a really dark green colour, dark brown colour at the start. And then when you've finished, you end up with something that's a lot clearer. So that's one of the signs that it's ready. As you can see as well, you can probably see there's like a little bit of a fizz on the top of there. It depending on how long you leave it, can be really, really quite fizzy. I'm not sure how fizzy this particular brew is. It looks like it is quite fizzy. If you want to test it midway through the brew to see if it's ready, you must use a plastic spoon. So we just use a plastic kitchen spoon rather. You mustn't put, as I say, mustn't put any metal in it. So all you do is once you've got your green tea in your jar, if you can see that. So you cut the bag. Let's see. Put the bag across the top really carefully. And then everything goes in. So you can see you've got the SCOBY, you've got the liquid in there. It's important that all of that goes in. Oh, just a bit of. Okay, and then all you do is you just take your little piece of muslin cloth and you just rub a bath mat over the top. And that's just, it's just, you still want, as I say, you still want air to get in it, but you also don't want anything to fall in it. And then you date it. What is the date? 26? 26. Because it takes about 2 weeks, so 10 to 14 days, you then need to just leave it. What we did notice is that in the winter, when it was a little bit colder, our kitchens are probably our coldest room in the house, and obviously get very cold overnight, it did take a little bit longer. I think it likes a sort of room temperature environment. So if it has got cold, if it's got cold in your house, then it might not like that. So this goes over here with all the others. And I'll find a home for that other SCOBY later on. It's just, as I said, one of the reasons we started making it was the cost, but also we decided we really liked it, and we'd read about the benefits in terms of our health and our gut bacteria. So there's a few facts here about kombucha itself. It seems to have come from Japan, but they're not really absolutely sure. There was something called kombucha in Japan, which is a tea made with seaweed, but they think it's come somewhere from Asia, and they think it might be red tea fungus or tea mold, which sounds really pleasant, doesn't it? But it is, as you see, it is a fungus type thing. It is a yeasty type thing. It's alive. The SCOBY, which actually stands for symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast, which also sounds gross, I have to say, it means that it is an alive food. So it's like other live things, sauerkraut, some of the things I think of, yogurt, things like that. I've got a live culture in them. And the cheese that I'm going to show you today, that's live too. It can actually be turned into clothing. I did not know that until I did this bit of research. The fibres from the SCOBY can be made into clothing, believe it or not. It's alcoholic. It's a bit alcoholic, believe it or not. Now, sometimes if I drink it too fast at lunchtime, I do feel a little bit giddy, but it doesn't take much for me to feel giddy on alcohol, I have to say. It's about 0.5%. If you think that beer's 4.5, it's very low in alcohol. I think you'd be okay to have a decent glass and still drive. And so beer and kombucha are actually cousins because they're made in a fermenting process in a similar way. And to me, it's got a lovely flavour. I don't drink anything like beer or lager. I don't like the taste of it, but it's got a really nice taste to it. But it is an acquired taste. Neither of my kids like it. They both literally spit it back on me. My teenage and 21-year-old children. It is healthy. As I say, all that sugar goes in, but none of it goes to you because the SCOBY is now in there eating up the sugar and fermenting with it. It's very low in calories and it's good for your gut bacteria, which as we already know is really important. And it is a massive market. I don't know if you've noticed just over the last few years, more and more and more kombucha appearing in the shops, so that it went from being something you could only really find at Holland and Barrett or health food shops, and now it's on the shelves at Sainsbury's and other supermarkets are available, of course. So it's a really and for me it's something we just have like a little tumbler every day, but sometimes through the day I'm having pints of water. I put a drop into my water just to take the edge off that watery taste that sometimes I'm just not in the mood for, just plain water. So it's nice to just use in dilute as well. So we drink lots of it in this house. We have gallons on the go. We've got 5 jars on the go at the moment in the kitchen. Right, so I'm going to attempt to do a little shuffle round so I can show you the cheese now. Trying to avoid too much of the mess I'm making. So bear with. What she sounds again? As they say on the telly.
Mum's made something similar, like kefir, I think you make with grains. Is that right, Claire?
Yeah, kefir is interesting. So I don't eat dairy, and it's quite difficult to get hold of kefir grains that aren't sourced that haven't been made in milk to start with. Because I used to, when I did have dairy, I used to have quite a lot of kefir. That's really nice. I love the taste of it, and it again is really good for your gut bacteria.
Mine used to get fizzy. I made it years ago, but it went fizzy, and I thought that I was doing something wrong, so I poured it all away. I didn't realise.
No, well, it's really funny. I'm not sure what makes the difference, but I imagine it's something to do with the temperature in your house, how brewed it gets, and therefore how fizzy it is. So this one, it definitely has got some fizz to it. You can just see the bubbles in it. But we tend to just go by time now. So we just go, right, has it been 2 weeks? Then we'll just go, we'll assume it's done. Because it can be just so different each time. It's really bad.
Is there any harm that you can do if you drink it before it's really ready?
Say that again.
Can it harm you if you drink it before it's ready?
Well, I suppose it might be very sugary. If it hasn't kind of fermented all the sugar away, then I guess it'd be sugary. But interestingly, it tastes, obviously that batch of green tea tastes like tea. It's got the tannin bit in it, and although it's got a lot of sugar in it, it still tastes like green tea. Whereas when it's finished, it actually tastes quite sweet, but the sugar content has gone.
Yeah.
So it doesn't taste like green tea at all anymore. You can't tell that it's made out of green tea. So here's the next thing. Seems everything has got. I'm keeping the cheese pop manufacturer thing. This is the thing. Okay, so the next thing is the cashew nut cheese. So it's got very, very few ingredients, but again, it's a fermented product. So we first came across this when we went to a vegan food festival, one of those places where there were lots of people close together. It's so exciting. I think it must be a couple of summers ago at least now. And we came across this company called Time Cheese. And what he'd done is he'd made lots of different flavours of this cashew nut cheese, and he'd waxed them and everything. So they look like little truckles, they're called, aren't they? The cheese. I remember my daughter first learned that word truckle, and she just laughed for about a week after every time she said it. She was laughing her head off. Anyway, little cheese truckles, but with cashew nut cheese. But they were not cheap. So I think he was charging like 10 quid for each one. So we thought, no, this can't be impossible to make ourselves. So we decided we'd find out how to make it ourselves. And it's really, really simple. So what I've got in here, so what I've got in this tub here is 2 cups of cashew nuts. which have been soaking overnight. So they need at least 6 hours soak time. I'm just going to drain them. So I'm just going to drain the liquid off. And it's amazing how soft they've gone just soaking over now. They don't feel like nuts anymore. They're really quite squishy. So they're just going to go into the old food processor. Yeah. And then I've lost my garlic. Lost my garlic. And then I'm putting garlic in this one. Now the great thing about this is you could just put anything in it that you fancy putting in it. You can put herbs in it. You can put herbs around it. Get the garlic. So you just crush your garlic into food processor. So you can make it as garlic or not as you like. And then we all put it in. I like anything super garlicky. And then 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. And again, this is another ingredient you can vary the taste depending on how lemony. So you can go from it being quite a rich, creamy taste to being quite a zesty taste, depending on what you like best. So it ends up being 2 tablespoons of lemon. And then half a teaspoon of salt. It recommends using sea salt, but I'm not finding salt. And then these got this stuff. So this is nutritional yeast, which is if you're a vegan, this is a fantastic source of B12. B12 is the one vitamin that it is very hard to get if you're not having any meat in your diet, because it's the one that's in meat. So I mean, I take B12 under my tongue anyway because it's really good for energy. And women don't tend to digest it as well as they get older, so it's really useful to know that. So I know there are some women who have an injection of B12 because it gets so low. But nutritional this, and if you smell this, I mean, it's cheesy. It certainly smells cheesy. And we need lemon spoon. So 2 tablespoons of this. We use it in all sorts of things where you want a bit of a cheesy flavour, but if you don't eat cheese. And I know we've had a conversation already about vegan cheese and whether people like those or not, because but let me tell you, when I first tried vegan cheese, which must have been sometime in the 80s, it smelt and tasted like feet. So it's a heck of a lot better than it, because they used to make it out of soya, and so it had this real kind of soyery. Anyway, it was horrible. So what you do then is you wear it up. I might just mute myself for that, so I don't.
I think these are becoming more commonplace, aren't they? So I've always had lactose intolerance, and I make my own almond milk and butter, nut butters. And I don't think people realize how easy it is to actually make at home and how much more cheaper it is. And of course, you don't have all the preservatives that you get if you buy it. So it is really kind of raw food that you're eating, isn't it? Which is great for you.
Yeah, definitely agree with that, Michaela.
Mm.
So as you're blending it, keep food pressing, keep pushing it down back in until you get it to that. And then I'm going to gradually add about half a cup of water. And you're looking for a creamy consistency. And because the cashew nuts are wet, it does go that way gradually. So I'm gonna mute me again, so you don't get dead.
It's all right. It's not that noisy, Claire.
Or leave it off. There we go. That'll be easier.
Hi Claire, sorry, I missed the quantity of the nuts that you used.
I think it was 2 cups, Karen.
Sorry?
2 cups, I think.
2 cups, thanks.
Okay, so this is a really important bit of this. Again, no probiotics anywhere near metal. I don't know what it is about metal and anything that's live, but it just doesn't like it. So we're going to use 2 of these, they're just normal, cheap and cheerful from Amazon probiotic capsules. And that's what we're going to use here. So I'm going to remove it from the, well, what I'll do is I'll remove the blade. That seems more sensible. So yeah. I've taken the blade out so with the metal get near the probiotic. And then it's the fiddly bit. So what we've got is just 2 little normal probiotics, and you've got to open them up. So it's a bit of a squeeze and a pinch and a twist to get them open. And that goes in there. So sprinkle it all over, make sure it gets all over the different, all over the bit. And then I'm going to use, again, a plastic spatula, no metal near this, no stirring with a metal spoon, to give it a really good mulch around in there. Mulching is definitely a chef's word, I'm sure. My word for today. Okay, so once that's stirred in, I've just got a bowl, which is basically a frame to sieve over. Now, although I'm using a metal sieve, because the fabric is in first, the cheese won't touch the fabric, and therefore the probiotics will be safe. So you lay this out, so it's sort of the middle of your piece of muslin, your cheese cloth, or what you call it, is in the middle of the sieve, and then drop this in, using all the best chemicals that I am.
If it does help people, you can just buy the muslin nut bags, which does help with the keeping it contained, doesn't it? They're only a few quid on Amazon.
We bought a big sheet of it for the kombucha as well, so
Yeah.
I
mean, if you can do it with that, it's cheaper.
avoid touching it, because you don't want you and probiotics to upset. Skin. Okay, so once you've got it in the middle of the there it is in the middle of the sieve, inside the pot, and then all you need is a decent rubber band, and you just pull it up from the corners, getting it as central as possible. It's going to eventually be a round, and then as you can you see this okay? As you pick it up, you just squeeze it all down to the middle, and you can see as you start to turn it, some of the liquid starts to come out. Because the idea is you're going to lose a lot of moisture out of it. So you tighten it up really tight. This is messy. And then tighten the rubber band around the top. As tight as it will go. And then got a piece of string or anything else you've got around the house, non shoelace or whatever. And I'm going to tie that around. And then you need to find somewhere to hang it. You can leave it sat, but I think it just works better when you hang it and you have air going all the way around it. So just for now, so you can see it dangling up on the little hang it on the door handle of the cupboard. So just find somewhere to hang it. Sometimes I hang it over a bowl across a wooden spoon, or which is probably where I'm moving to later. You know, you can just put a wooden spoon across a bowl and hang it under there, but you need to have it hanging. And you can see already that the water is starting to drip out. So that then that stays there for about 72 hours outside, not in the fridge, not in it. But once it's actually finished, it goes to quite a nice hard ball. You can tell it's done because it has a nice aroma to it, a cheesy smell. That sounds gross, a cheesy smell. But it's got like a crusty outside, and then once it's actually finished, you do keep it in the fridge after that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you talk amongst yourselves. But I'll go and sit down, and if there's any questions, I can take those. Well, I'm just going to wash my hands and disconnect from this, and then I'll see you in there in front of the computer. So bear with me. Where's the leaf button? There we go. Seen a mode.
Makes it look so easy, doesn't she? I expect she's had years of practice. Who else has made any nut cheeses here? Yeah, Michaela and Christina.
I did on one of my Zooms. It was a vegan mozzarella.
Yeah,
it was called. But yes, and I made ricotta, and actually made the Indian one as well. I made, but that's not from nuts. It's just milk and lemon.
Yeah. Very good. Very good.